Hello, in this video, I am going to run through my personal Arcades the Strategist Defender-based wall deck and run through all the creatures, instants and sorceries, enchantments and artifacts, and lands that make up my deck. First, onto the creatures. My deck is a Defender-based deck, so Stalwart Shield Bearers works great here. For 2 mana, it's a 0/3 Defender, and it gives all of the creatures you control Defender +0/+2. And then, of course, our Commander makes creatures deal damage with their toughness rather than their powers. This is really a toughness boost and a power boost. Sunscape Familiar. This is both a 2 mana 0/3, so it'd be a 3/3 essentially, 3 damage, and it reduces the cost of our green and blue spells. So it's both a ramp piece that doesn't have to tap, so it can still attack with our commander. Corrupted Shape Shifter. Now, this is an interesting card. This itself does not have Defender, but I do have enchantments like this one. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So this could be a 0/2 that could deal a ton. Oh, it is a 0/12 with Defender. I did not know that. That's not good of me. But 0/12 Defender, or it can be a 2/5 with Vigilance if you need that, or it can be a 3/3 with Flyer if you need that. But at a bare minimum, it's a 0/12 with Defender, which is great. Sadar Kodo of Jamara. I probably slaughtered that, but 2 a green and a white for a 2/5 with flanking. And then the important part for me is creatures your opponents control without flying to reach can't block creatures you control with power 2 or less. This creature, and this creature, including this creature, this creature, this creature, this creature, like a ton of creatures just are unblockable now, which is great. Wall of Omens in the nice full art foil, 0/4. Enters, draws a card, so it can, cycle itself and be a nice creature that can attack or block. Suspicious Bookcase. Now, I am worried that as I was going through this, let me see, that I have 2 of these cards in the deck, but luckily I don't. Thought I did, but I don't. Suspicious Bookcase, I got it in the Truth to New Capenna art. I am a fan of the old art, but the Truth to New Capenna has a nice foiling to it, and it can make creatures unblockable, which is great whenever you have, 0/4s that are deal 4 damage. They're now unblockable, and a bunch of other things can be unblockable. There's another way to give unblockable. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. So any of our straight up walls can't be blocked, which can deal a lot of damage very quickly. Wall of Vapor. Damage dealt to Wall of Vapor by creatures it blocks is reduced to 0, and this creature does have Defender, so it can block unlimitedly. Plus, it's on theme. Crystal Barricade, 2 mana, 0/4 Defender. You get hexproof and prevent all non-combat damage to be dealt to other creatures you control. So, 2 mana for 0/4 isn't the best rate, but getting some, tangible abilities on top of that is great. That might come up in a game. Wall of Junk, it's a 0/7, but if it blocks, you return it to its owner's hand at the end of combat, which isn't too bad. 2 mana is not that hard to keep playing this card. It's also a great attacker because for 2 mana, it deals 7 flump. 2 mana, 0/4 Defender and flying. Whenever it's dealt damage, you and target opponent each draw a card. You need to draw as many cards as possible. You have so many creatures that are 2 or 3 mana that you're just going to be able to dump these cards and play constantly. You just need to draw as many cards as possible. Axebane Guardian is Defender that adds X mana of any combination of colors. 3 mana, pull X as a number of creatures defending you control. So this is ramp on theme as a Defender with higher toughness and power. Bad Rock Tortoise, 4 mana, 0/6. As long as it's your turn, creatures you control have hexproof, which is great for attacking. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat equal to its toughness. This doesn't give hexproof, so they can't, sabotage you by destroying a creature as it attacks or something. And then, because if you attack with all of your creatures and they're a bunch of 0/4s, and they kill the creature, if it's Arcades that made them deal damage equal to their toughness and their power, then all of a sudden you just have 0/4s and they can take all the damage. This is a way to prevent that. Green Shell, 5 mana, 4/6 reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control go +2/+2. Whenever it or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you put into play tapped, otherwise put into your hand. So this is every single time you play 90% of your creatures, you get to look at the top card. If it's a land, put into play. If it's not, draw a card, which is great. Drum Bellower untaps all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So now all of your walls essentially have Vigilance and can be walls after attacking. They have Defender, they might as well defend. Tree of Redemption. Now, you probably don't want to swap your life total off that much with this card, but it's really just a 4 mana, 0/13. So it has a huge butt and can deal a ton of damage. Wall of Stolen Identity is a great card. You may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it's a wall, and it has Defender. And you tap the creature that it copied. So this can be a copy of even your opponent's commander, and now you just have a defender copy, so you get all the benefits of that while getting their benefits of playing their own card. Shield Wall Sentinel, when it enters, you can search your library for a creature card defender, put into your hand, then shuffle. If you need this, you could get that. If you need something huge, you could get the Tree of Predation. If you need to draw cards, you can get Wall of Omens. If you need to have Hexproof or give yourself protection, and so many other cards we haven't even got to yet. There's a lot of potential. The Hydroelectric Specimen is a 1/4 flash. When it enters, you may change the target instant or sorcery spell with a single target to it. Not the best card, but you have to remember on the backside, it's just a land. So at worst, it's a tapped island. At best, it's a 1/4 that's has a higher toughness. You can deal damage with its toughness, and it can protect something. Seems like a win-win-win to me. Walking Bulwark. So, 2, until end of turn, target creature with defender gains haste, can attack as though it didn't have defender, and deals combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Not a powerful effect. You really don't want to be paying 2 mana for this, but for 1 mana, you get a 0/3 defender. That's a great value. Perimeter Captain. Every single time one of your creatures with defenders blocks, you gain 2 life, and it's 1 white for a 0/4. So in this deck, it's literally 1 mana for a 4/4. Shield Sphere, 0/6. It counts as a wall. It has defender. And guess what? It's a 0 mana 6/6 in this build. That is insane. Memnite, eat your heart out. The Pride of Hulklade, 11 mana, 2/15. This spell costs X less to cast for X as the total toughness of creatures you control. It is not that uncommon for me to cast this card for 1 green or green 2, and you just have 2 0/4s in play. So it's just like 3 mana. Very strong. It has Defender itself, and for 4 mana until end of turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its toughness and can attack as though it didn't have a Defender. So you just pay 4 mana to draw 6 cards if you did Shield Sphere. Oh, you did Perimeter Captain, pay 4, draw 4. Do I have to communicate how good that is? Come on. Oron Phosphane. Attacking creature you control of Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control does combat damage to play, draw a card. Attacking creature you control of Death Touch isn't that important in this build, but it has a bigger butt than power, so bigger toughness than power, and every single time one of your creatures combat damage, you draw a card. Like I said, we just need to draw cards in this deck, and this is a kind of on-theme way to do that. The Kyriad, Defender and Hexproof, and it taps to add mana to your mana pool, so it's an on-theme Defender that can add mana. Ween Mantle Chaplain is a 0/3 Defender. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 bird for each creature you control with Defender. Whenever another creature with Defender leaves the battlefield, to make a 1/1. Not the best card, but not too many of these walls, in my experience, have reach, and so having some flyers that can just act as blockers as your walls are attacking is good. Spellskite can, it's on thing because it has a higher toughness than power, plus it can protect something for 2 life or 1 blue. Wall of Blossoms, and that nice art. When it enters, you draw a card. Socrates, Arthurian Teacher. This card is phenomenal. 1 white and a blue for a 0/4 with Defender. It has texture as long as untapped, and you can untap until end of turn. Target creature gains. If this creature would deal combat damage to a player, prevent that damage. Its creature's controller and that player draw half the many cards rounded down. This is a great negotiation piece, because if you attack with, let's say, your Wall of Blossoms, and it can attack because you have Arcades in play, you and the controller, you can just say, hey, if you take 4, you draw 2, I draw 2. What? That's a good deal, So I'm very happy with that. It's a great card. Weathered Sentinels, 3 mana for a 2/5. Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. They can attack players who attacked you during your last turn as though it didn't have Defender. Whenever it attacks, it gets +3/+3 and gets indestructible on turn of turn. So this thing would attack, become a 5/8. If you have Arcades or a different effect in play, it deals 8. It becomes indestructible. It has Vigilance, which means it can also be a blocker. It has Reach, which I've already communicated is a problem. And it having Trample is just gravy on top. Kodama of the East Tree. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand to the battlefield. You play 1 card, you just dump another card. You play a card, you get to dump another card. You have so many cheap walls. You play a 4-drop, you play a 2-drop for free. You play a 3-drop, you play a land for free. Tons of value. It'll empty your hand very fast. Towering Viewpoint. This card is important because you need reach. It's also colorless in a 3-color deck, so it's nice. And giving creatures flying is good whenever you're attacking 0/6s and 2/15s. Wall of Roots. An on-theme way to add mana. It has Defender, and you could put -0, -1 counters on it to add green. Council of 4. 5 mana, 0/8. Whenever a player draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you make it 2/2. It's on theme because it has higher toughness than power, but just drawing cards whenever your opponents draw, whenever any player, including your opponents, including you, draw their second card, you draw an extra card. And anytime a player casts 2 spells, you make a knight. That's just going to happen over the course of the game and be great for you. Overgrown Battlement is another way to add green equals the number of defenders you control. It's another on-theme way to add mana. Wall of Denial, Defender, Flying Shroud, super good. 8/8 too for 3. Another way, it's a Defender, the wall that adds mana. Vinbux, Verbo's Host. 2 mana, 0/4 with Start Your Engines. You have no max hand size, and if you would draw a card, you draw 2 cards instead. So my thought here is it's on theme, and you're dealing damage because it's hard to block these 6/6s. Once you get up to max speed, you just draw multiple cards, and like I already communicated, your hand gets empty quick. Cathedral Membrane, 1 and a white. Whenever it's put into together in the battlefield during combat, it deals 6 damage to each creature it blocked. It also works out well because for 1 mana you can put a 0/3 into play, so that's fun. So those are all the creatures in the build. You have access to a lot of ramping, but now I'm going to get into the instant sorceries. Fell the Mighty, destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. Choose your biggest powered creature, and if it's Arcades and it's 3, I mean, you are just going to kill almost everything and keep all of your stuff around. So Fell the Mighty is great. Dramatic Reversal, being able to untap everything at instant speed, including all of your walls to tap for mana, any mana rocks you have, and just having a whole army of very strong blockers all of a sudden is great. War Gates, X, green, white, blue for a sorcery. Search your library for a permanent card with converted mana cost X or less, put into play, then shuffle your library. I just want to talk about the floor and the ceiling of this card. The ceiling of this card is you can go pay mana. Let's say you pay 2 into it and get whatever wall for 2 mana you need. You put 4 into it, you get whatever you need. It counts any permanents as well. So any artifact or enchantment you need. You can pay 6 and get High Alert into play. You can pay to get Unnatural Growth, to fairies. There's plenty of other things as well. But the floor of this card is 3 mana, get a land. 3 mana, get a land. That's like, it's not as good as Rampant Growth or Farseek or 3 visits, but 3 mana, get a land is, if that's your floor, this card is great. You know what I mean? And it can only go up from there. You can get any ramp piece you need. You can get any solution you need to any problem out of your deck. But the floor is Bant, get a land. And it can even be a non-basic land like Spara's Headquarters. So that's a great card. Heroic Intervention, something this deck does, let me put them all together. Something this deck very much needs is the ability to protect your things. Flawless Maneuver can do it for free, gives all your creatures indestructible if you control your commander. Heroic Intervention gives all permanents you control hexproof and indestructible. Teferi's Protection can just remove everything from your board out of play for a turn. You have a bunch of walls. They're easy to die to removal because there's a lot of board wipes and they can just kill them. And then it's hard for you to rebuild because you don't have access to a ton of card draw. Because your commander, your commander has to be in play and then you have to play other things. So having an empty hand, you can't refuel with your commander like you can with other commanders. So you just need ways to protect your walls. Very important you protect your walls. Enlightened Tutor can search for any artifact or enchantment. We'll get into why those are good later. Eerie Interlude. This also does the protection thing. You can exile all your creatures and put them back into play. Plus, if you do it all, Arcades can see them all re-enter and you get to draw cards off of it. Nature's Laurel, let's go get a forest. Worst case, you get headquarters put into play. So by invitation only. Choose a number between 0 and 13. I was running into an issue when I built this deck in the past, and I just haven't switched out the card because it's still good, where 2 scenarios. A, my opponents were playing a lot of indestructible, and my typical destroy spells weren't cutting it. And B, if you have 6 walls in play and your opponents all have 3 things, you can just sacrifice 3 of your weakest walls. So by invitation only is good in this deck. Slaughter the Strong. You choose a combination of power 4 or less. You have a lot of 0s and a lot of 1s, so you can keep a lot of things behind and your opponents just all die. Dusk, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. To Dawn, return all creatures with power 2 or less from graveyard to your hand. Your commander has power 3, so it's going to keep that around. You basically get to keep around everything you have, and then you get to return a bunch of stuff later in the game to your hand, which is nice. So those are all the sorceries and instants in the build. Next up, I'm going to go over the artifacts and enchantments. First up is High Alert. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender. Let's have some redundancy in this deck. Arcane Signet. It's a 3-color deck. You want to play Arcane Signet. I don't listen to the haters that say green decks shouldn't play Arcane Signet. I play Arcane Signet, but you let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Should green decks play Signet when you just have access to 3 visits and Nature's Lore? I don't know. But I think every deck since Stone of Eldraine is going to play this card for the rest of time. Follower Stone, you're a 3-color deck. The chances of at least one of your opponents playing white or green or blue are very high. Unnatural growth, white, 1 green, 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 green. At the beginning of combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control. Doubling, your 0/4s into 0/8s is really strong. So that's a great card. Defers and just Insight, whenever you would draw a card, except for the first one you draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 instead. Our commander literally says every time something's defender enters, we draw a card, and we have plenty of other walls of just like Wall of Blossoms, Wall of Omens, enter and draw a card. So this would just make it 2. Viridian Revel, whenever an artifact is put into your opponent's grave from the battlefield, draw a card. There's a lot of treasures in Commander. There's a lot of clues. There's a lot of junk. There's a lot of, sacrificing an artifact to pull it back into play and sacrificing this and just artifact creatures dying and all that kind of incidental stuff and just drawing cards off of it is great. Smugglers share 2 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. And then create a treasure for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control this turn. You need to draw cards, and getting treasures is also good, but just like keep repeating, you need to draw cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from giver to the battlefield. Put a plus count on each of those creatures. Smile of Death, this is the newest card I think I've put into this deck, so I haven't actually had a chance to play with it yet. But all I can imagine is just imagine getting 2 of your walls back every turn. Just imagine getting the 2 of these back. Oh yeah, and they get a plus counter, which means the toughness is bigger, which means they hit harder. That seems pretty good to me. Especially because this deck is so dependent on rebuilding fast after a board wipe. Smothering Tides, that's good. Guardian Project, you're not playing very many tokens, and every deck creature in your deck is a different name, so play it. Soul Rain, that's good. And Panharmonicon, you have a lot of walls, like Wall of Dual Identity that enters and does something. Shield Wall, Sentinel enters and does something. Your Wall of Blossoms, your Kodama triggers, and your Arcades triggers. Every time something that has Defender enters, you draw a card, this just makes it 2, so Panharmonicon is good in this build. Next up, I'm going to go over all the lands rather quickly. Spara's Headquarters, it's a tri-land. Forest, Sunpetal Grove, Snow-Covered Island, Iganjo, Hollowed Fountain, Marsh Flats, Exotic Orchard, Sea of Clouds, Brushland, Bountiful Promenade, Overgrown Farmland, Secluded Courtyard. You name Wall. That's what I would do. I name Wall, and so this can just kind of fix your mana. For walls, you can also name Dragon if you need your commander, but Wall is most of the time going to work. Dreamroot Cascade, Arid Mesa, Flooded Grove, Unclaimed Territory, Woodford Hills, Temple Garden, Flooded Strand. I'm sure you've noticed that there's a couple of proxies in this deck. My play group is very lenient on proxies. As long as we own one of the cards, we can play as many of the other ones as we want. In theory, we could just unsleep and put into any deck. And then Access Tunnel is a land that can make your creatures power 3 or less unblockable, which is great because a lot of our creatures have power 3 or less. And those are all of the cards in my Arcades the Strategist decks. If you're planning on building one, you let me know your thoughts on my build in the comments below. If you watched this video for 18 minutes, you probably enjoyed it, and I hope that you liked the video and leave me a comment with your thoughts. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.